Your Democratic politics at work. They want to delay, selectively, parts of Obamacare again. Your Republican politics at work. They refuse to accept a deal on tax breaks for Obamacare. Huh? The decay of your American politics once again. Coming up next on Get Right with Lenny McAllister, starting right
now. Get Right with Lenny McAllister.
I've had it up to here with the likes of you people.
The way we help bring back America and we build the bridges and bring people together is by making sure we hold everybody accountable in a 360 fashion.
So let me close with this. Yes, there is a change that we can believe in, but it will never come from a politician or a government program.
We cannot find physical sanity here in the land of Lincoln, from Carbondale to Elgin, if we can collectively continue to tolerate an insanity found on the streets of South Chicago and East Texas of the world.
We got to move away from the American Idol soundbite nature of politics and back to the American statesman of humble servant leadership that we used to see in politics.
It is time to roll out the era of the new, educated, engaged, and energized American citizens.
I go do the jail ministry. I speak to the kids in the streets. So I'm never going to lay down being conservative just as much as I'll never lay down being a proud African American.
I feel like a black republic. Money I got coming in. Can't turn my back on the hood. I got love for them. Can't clean
Happy, joy, happy Monday to you. Here, another edition of Get Right with Lenny McAllister, where you and I vibe via Twitter, via Facebook, via www.lennymcallister.com, where you're hearing this podcast. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, you got feedback, Twitter, very simple, first and last name, LENNYMCALLISTER, Facebook, and I'm going to say it right, courtesy to one of our wonderful friends out on the left coast too. You know, these folks do this techie stuff out there. Me, I'm archaic and saying it all wrong. I'm saying tinyurl.com / but I'm not going to say /. I'm just going to say /. See, folks, I thought Slash was just a famous guitar player from the 1980s and 90s, Guns N' Roses. Apparently, he does URLs as well. So, I'm going to say tinyurl.com / Lenny Page. That's simply tinyurl.com / Lenny Page. Now, again, I appreciate your feedback and going back and forth, and I'm not going to stay too long on what I talked about on Friday, but you can find it on Get Right with Lenny McAllister. You can find it on the Barbershop, National Public Radio. You can find it even Sun News Network. It's just on there. Well, talking to my wonderful Canadian family, my cousins up there that I met years ago and love keeping in touch with every now and then. Talked about this with the NSA, so I'm not going to sit here and talk about it too long, because what I talked about as we were leading into the podcast, with this Obamacare back and forth political maneuvering, if you will, should be enough to make you pull your hair out. If gerrymandering and lack of term limits and political games, just talking about them on their surface don't make you mad. This about Obamacare, where the Democrats, after saying it's an atrocity to shut down the government over Obamacare, we will not delay, only for them to try to delay yet another aspect of Obamacare. This time they're actually going to go through Congress at least. The president wouldn't even so much as do that before. But to hear them argue against delaying anything and then turn around and offer a delay on something. And then to see the Republicans, when it comes to a tax break or a tax policy being implemented that's going to benefit people, and them being against that, it should be enough to make you pull your hair out. And we'll get into that in a second. But I want to get real brief into the NSA thing. And I said it on Friday, I said it earlier today on Monday, and I'll say it again. The whole reason why this is more of an embarrassment for the Obama White House than it could ever be for the Bush White House, despite Bush Cheney, despite Halliburton, despite Rumsfeld, despite the lack of WMDs, despite Colin Powell resigning after one term, despite the fight over oil. Despite all those things, this is worse for the Obama administration. Because even if you ignore 2009 through 2013 and all the foreign policy gaffes that you have seen with an inconsistent record from this president. The one thing that Senator Obama, who hadn't even spent a full term in the U.S. Senate, was supposed to bring as the 44th president of the United States. When we were sitting there in November 2008, when he was president-elect, we were told that a guy 5 years prior to being president-elect of the United States, who was an obscurely known state senator with a funny name, 5 years from that point in 2003, this guy's president-elect of the United States. And the reason why we were sold on that was because of the fact that we said one big thing about him coming into the office was that he was going to elevate the global esteem of the United States once again. A level of esteem that took a severe hit under President George W. Bush. Our allies would trust us more. Our allies would rally around us more. Our enemies would be more willing to come to the table and broker peace. I mean, all this promise was put out there to a point where a guy won a national election and won a Nobel Peace Prize. So, and I've said this earlier this year, when the Nobel Peace Prize winning president doesn't live up to that banner, the optics are horrible. Horrible. They were bad when it came to this and Putin in regards to the optics. When Putin had to broker the deal and help the United States back away from its own red line that President Obama drew as a candidate in 2012. Anytime somebody that was a leader within the KGB looks more stately than your Nobel Peace Prize winning president, that's bad from an optics point of view. Then this happens, where this president is going to take it one step past what the KGB former leader, now president of the Russian Federation, would do himself. I know that all these different countries spy on each other. But when you're the president of the United States, you were elected to reestablish confidence from our allies and esteem and a welcoming hand when it comes to trying to pull in our adversaries to move us away from dangerous geopolitical situations. You simply can't have these things transpire. I'm not going to stay on it too long. I want to get into Obamacare just for a little bit today. But you simply cannot have this transpire. I don't usually go down this path, but I'm about to. I will be one of the last to go down this path. I promise you. But I'm about to go down a path that a lot of other conservatives have been dancing down for quite some time. I don't think he's the worst president in the history of the United States of America. But this presidency is looking more and more and more and more like a failed presidency. The unemployment rate is still atrocious. The jobs that are coming back into the United States are nowhere near what we lost. He has not kickstarted this economy. His signature legislation, which we're going to talk about in a second, has been a hot mess, as they say down south. A hot mess. He got elected. And I still say this. I say if John McCain put Mitt Romney on his ticket as a vice presidential candidate, I don't even know if President Obama is President Obama. He may still be Senator Obama. Honest to goodness. I believe that. He won because people did not like Sarah Palin in 2008. Then he won because people could not stand Republicans even more than they couldn't stand Republicans in 2008. I've heard more than one Illinois Politico tell me that he is the luckiest politician they have ever seen in their lives. Between how he got on the ballot and won his state Senate race, basically kicking off an incumbent, to how he won his 2004 U.S. Senate race, waiting for the guy who was beating him in the polls to drop out of the race due to a sex scandal, to how he won the 2008 presidency. Hillary Clinton taking him for granted, John Edwards having his own sex scandal, and then John McCain putting on the very polarizing Sarah Palin. And then running in 2012 against Mitt Romney, who we can go on and on about the electoral successes of Barack H. Obama, 44th president of the United States. And that's all well and good. But once you're in there, and I swear to you, I really, really believe if you can go into a time machine, you can probably get State Senator Obama, U.S. Senator Obama, and President Obama to have this discussion, and the former two would be ready to bonk the third one over the head like Homie the Clown. And be like, homie, don't play that. Why are you doing these things? We ran on this stuff. You are tarring our legacy. You are destroying it. People trusted us. People liked us. People wanted to go in a new direction. You're doing the same old stuff, man. You say that you don't like some of how the Bush presidency had approached terrorism. You're using drones more than he did. You're listening to our allies and got busted doing it. You're allowing Putin, who John McCain doesn't like and Bush didn't really trust all that much. You're letting this guy dictate the terms in Syria after you drew the red line. Dude, what are you doing? If you had a time machine, I would assure you that the former two would be looking at the third and saying, what are you doing? And then they would look at this Obamacare stuff. Again, your feedback on Twitter, on Facebook, I always enjoy hearing from you and vibing with you. Now you have the Democrats who sat there and basically tarred and feathered the Republicans for shutting down the government over Obamacare, saying we're not going to delay anything else, even though we delayed enough, gave plenty of exceptions. We're not going to delay anything because this is the law of the land. They're right back to trying to change the law of the land. Now they want to give a delay on, I think it's a $65 fee that goes on everybody that has health insurance. Why? Why do we continue to pick and choose what we want to delay with the law and ignore the obvious, which is the technical rollout is horrible, you know, and they're laughing at us up in Canada, and I'll tell you why. Because the firm that they hired to fix the Obamacare website is a firm that they had hired up in Canada that screwed up the rollout. So we're taking a screwed up rollout. We're hiring a firm outside of the United States that has a reputation of screwing up something else. And this whole thing is becoming a mess. Whether it's from the technical standpoint or from the political standpoint of, well, we're not going to delay anything except the stuff that we want to delay. See, now you got Democrats acting like Republicans, except for the fact that they're picking and choosing what they want to delay in the rollout. And that's bad. That's horrible. That's not right. But then you have the Republicans who have an opportunity to save thousands of people money. Now, maybe $65 might not be a lot to you, but here's an opportunity to put money in more Americans' pockets, and the Republicans are saying no. And this is what makes people just angry with American politicians in general. Because now you have them flip-flopping roles based on the politics that they're trying to please. From a Democratic standpoint, they have constituents, unions. Isn't it always the unions? It's not always the unions, but it is enough of the time. So the unions were complaining about this law for quite some time, right? Right. Now here's a concession that's being thrown out there so that the Democrats can please their constituents and try to make it look like they're working with Republicans. Republicans, they're not going to take this maneuver kindly. And on top of that, they're asking, to me, a very legitimate question. I want your feedback on this. A very legitimate question. Why are we once again picking and choosing what we want to delay? The most obvious thing that needs to be delayed is the thing that you're trying to keep into place. And that still goes back to politics. So if you're going to play politics, we're going to play politics, which of course the American people are stuck in the middle of the political games. And generally speaking, the American people lose out again. So back to the time machine. State Senator Barack Obama, U.S. Senator Barack Obama, and 44th President of the United States, they walk into a bar or into a time machine. And the first two are telling off the third, wondering, why in the world are you doing so many different things? Why are you all across the map? Why are you giving some exemptions? You're talking about we're going to get rid of Washington cronyism. That was another thing he ran on. So transparency around the world, reestablishing global esteem with our allies and even with our adversaries so that we can broker a greater sense of peace throughout the world, move us away from war, and be a nation that can be trusted as the shining city on the hill. That's the reason why he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009. He didn't even serve a full term in the presidency. Hadn't even served a full year in the presidency. When he won the award, I don't even know if he was in the presidency for 6 months. He was still walking around the White House with a map. That was one thing, okay? Bring about a greater level of peace. But it's more than that. But wait, there's more. Wasn't one of the campaign promises also to get rid of Washington cronyism? And what have you seen with Obamacare? We'll keep what we want. And when it comes to our political favorites, our political constituencies, our political supporters, our political cronies, we'll make sure we keep them appeased. Now, for those of you that say that's not true with this president, let's go back to the war on women. Let's go back to some of the other things that transpired. Let's go back to suing the state of Indiana over not funding Planned Parenthood. There are other instances where the Obama administration gets itself into fights or adopts certain policy positions not based on the fairness that the former two Barack Obamas, Illinois state senator from the south side of Chicago, and U.S. senator from the state of Illinois, those two said one thing and President Obama is doing something different. So I know, again, if you go back to State Senator Obama, U.S. Senator Obama, and President Obama walked into a bar, i.e. a time machine, those two would be angry. You are tarring and marring and slashing and slaying our legacy. People voted for you, dude, because they trusted us. They voted for you twice to be president because we said we would end cronyism. They voted for you twice because you were supposed to elevate the global esteem of the United States of America. You, Mr. President, were supposed to do something different. And the more you look at this administration, you know, it's something that I have said for years about this president. Love him as a child of God. But I genuinely think he does two things. Number one, he runs the presidency as if he is still in Chicago. I haven't really, there's too much hands-on. And this is something that does happen in Chicago politics a lot. Now, 2009, I wasn't willing to say it. And even when I first got to Chicago in 2010, I wasn't willing to say it that much. But the more I see this, the more I say, number one, he is acting like a Chicago politician with all this control. I even said it with Obamacare. Why do you need to scrape off all the personal information off of an individual that hits the website before you can tell them how they save the money? That's not how people sell you cars. They come in, they let you test drive. They tell you about all the great things about the car. And then once you have some buy-in, then they get your information. That's number one. Number two, I think this president, aside from running it like it's Chicago-style politics, I also think he runs and he acts in a lot of ways like this is a state government, not the United States of America. I think he wants to have his hand in too many things, wants too much information, wants too much power. And what we're finding with Obamacare and with other things is that you just cannot run the United States of America like that. The country is too big and too diverse. The Russians learned the hard way with the former Soviet Union. And if you look at our economy, nothing's turning around. If you look at the social tension in the United States of America, we were supposed to be post-racial. Hasn't happened under this president. We were supposed to be able to dialogue better. Hasn't happened underneath this president. We get along worse as a nation in many, many regards, and we get along better as a nation under this president. Chicago-style politics, throwing the hammer down. Wanting too much information, wanting to be too involved, number one. Number two, addressing our problems as if it's a state government. It's number 2. I think he's always done wrong. And number 3, I think he looks at the polls too much. There's no level of consistency. Again, I think that state senator, U.S. senator would look at President Obama and say, why do your standards, policies, principles, how are you going to approach things, why do they fly all over the map? Why are they all over the place? Give me your feedback if you agree or disagree. Why don't you just stay where you are? I'm against the Bush-era tax cuts until I'm for the Bush-era tax cuts and sign them into law after I lose an election in 2010 just to get people off my back, and then I'm going to campaign right back against these Bush-era tax cuts that I put into place. I am for Catholic schools being forced to pay for RU-486 and birth control and other matters, even if you're an institution like a Catholic university, which people don't have to go to, until I get pressed, and then I'm going to back up off that a little bit. I mean, there's too many things that transpire with this president that's based on polls alone. I know he's a politician, but when you're a second-term president and you ran on some principles, when do you ever remember what you ran on? Trust, honesty, the elimination of the Washington way and cronyism. None of those things have been transparency, even the media transparency. Go ask the media how they feel about President Obama nowadays. It's part of the reason why they're turning on him when it comes to Obamacare. Remember how this administration said we'll be the most open administration ever? And what have you had from the media since then with this administration? You've had certain journalists targeted. You've had them shutting out information. You've had them shielding things from the media. And this was in 2012. This is in 2011. Remember, we were supposed to have the healthcare debate on C-SPAN so the American people can see it live as it's going on. That never happened. In fact, not only was it not on C-SPAN, it wasn't even open to the Republican Party. So it wasn't open to the media or the Republican Party. These are the things that when you see this NSA thing come out, you say, what else is he going to lie on? What did he actually keep? And who did he keep those promises to? Because you didn't elevate the global esteem of the United States of America. Our allies are pissed off. They don't trust us as much. The economy is bad. Cronyism's still going on. There was no transparency with healthcare reform. There was no transparency when it comes to this administration. And we're seeing things like the IRS being used to target individuals and everything else. Where does it end? I'm saying it, but I assure you, if you were in that time machine or that bar or that time machine that's in a bar, the state senator and the U.S. Senator from Illinois would be asking the current president of the United States these same exact questions because it's their legacy on the line, not mine. What do you think? You know where to find me. Twitter, LennyMcAllister. On Facebook, it's tinyurl.com/LennyPage. In the meanwhile, I'm out of here for now. I am about to jump online. Looking forward to your feedback, your comments. In the meanwhile, you enjoy the rest of your Monday. I love you. I always appreciate interacting with you. And just know I'm going to continue to fight for you any way, shape, or form. TCNGB. That means take care and God bless. Peace.